Well, thank you for coming, and I just want to explain why we're showing this film here. It was shown last November at the UNA USA Monterey Bay Chapter Film Festival at CSUMB, and there was a tremendous response to it. And I have been going to meetings that are in Salinas, Safe Ag, Safe School meetings, SASS. And a woman who has been going to the meetings gave me a copy of this film, East of Salinas. And she said, oh, I hope you'll be able to show it at the Peace Center sometime. So it's been a while since she gave it to me, but we had arranged to show it here. And then the featured teacher in the film, Oscar Ramos, is another person who has been attending the meetings of Safe Ag, Safe School. He's a teacher at a school in Salinas, Sherwood School. I'm going to be reading a short bio about him soon. But a number of the schools in Salinas are located near fields where they're doing spraying. And this organization, Safe Ag, Safe Schools, is a group that's not only publicizing this, but they're doing things to change the policies of the Department of Pesticide Regulation and our county policies regarding spraying near schools and spraying of certain toxic chemicals. So it is a great honor to have Oscar here today, Oscar Ramos. He was born in, is it Jalisco, Mexico? But he grew up in California. He lived in a labor camp in Hollister and worked in the agricultural fields on weekends and during school vacations. From the time he was 7 years old until he was able to legally work someplace else. He attended UC Berkeley and earned his BA in history and a minor in Spanish. He is currently in his 23rd year of teaching at Sherwood School in Salinas. He has been featured in New York Times, USA Today, all the major news networks, and all the local newspapers. In 2016, he was awarded the Central Coast American Red Cross Education Hero Award, and in 2017, the California Teachers Association honored him with the Cesar Chavez Human Rights Award, an award given to educators for their dedication promoting and protecting human and civil rights. Ramos was one of 8 teachers from throughout California who received this award. He not only dedicates vast amount of time and effort to his own students in Salinas, but he also spends much of his time in Hollister, where he grew up, giving assistance to young people there and helping out. Please join me. We will have the film first, and then Oscar will be facilitating a discussion. We'll have a short break after the film, and then please stay for the discussion. It'll be most interesting. As you know right now, the debate about immigrants coming into the country is one that is on most of our minds, and it is so important that we are aware of how farm workers are treated or mistreated and how they move through our society and become citizens. He came with his wife and his son, and I'm sure they'd like to go do some things around this area too, so I'm going to... Oh, it's on here. Which side? I'm going to turn this over to Oscar Ramos, who's here, the teacher featured in the film. If you came in late, I'm sorry you missed the introduction, but he will probably say a few words about his teaching and Oscar Ramos.
Hello, well, thank you for coming. I really don't have much to say. I was just going to open it up for questions. I've already been asked twice, well, where is Jose? So I'll answer that one first. Jose is working. It would have been wonderful to know that that had a happy ending and everything is perfect and he's living in a nice, secure place, financially secure, and he's getting ready to college. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. That's why he's not here. He couldn't afford to miss work. So he's working, and he was planning on coming, but yeah, it would have been a little tough. He's going to be 15. He's going to be 15 on Monday. So So that documentary took 3 years to film. Started filming when he was in 3rd grade in my class, and they followed on when he finished 6th grade and went on to middle school. If there are some short updates as where is Jose or where's Oscar now, sort of deal. It's at the east of Salinas. PBS, just type in PBS east of Salinas, and a page will pop up, and there's a little clip of an update. They've done 2 updates. The other one was done by USA Today, was in PBS, so it's not on the PBS site. But we've had 2 updates, and yeah, he's taller than me now, and still very determined, still working hard and doing great in school, and getting involved in the community. He's been at rallies and at marches for LGBT, for DACA, for this and for that, so he's turned out to be a fantastic teenager. So that's, well, I will say, when my wife is here and my son, he's back there. I now would say this documentary almost didn't happen. The way it came about is the New York Times came to my school wanting to write an article on migrant families and the work I do with migrant families. And after a while, they published it, and 2 ladies from Boston who worked for PBS at the time read the article and called me and said that they wanted to fly from Boston to do an informal interview on camera, just to see if there was a story to tell, put on film. And they said it would be 30-minute interview, and that through 30 minutes turned out to be 3 hours, because every question I answered, they had 2 or 3 other questions. And then they immediately after the interview, they said, yeah, there's a story to tell. We need to tell the story. And I said no. And so don't thank me because this happened. You thank my wife because she said, yes, you have to do it. You're doing it. So she's the one that said, you have to do it, and I did. So, and I'm glad she convinced me, because I really enjoy, I've seen it 100 times and I cry every time. But I think Jackie and Laura, who did the film, did a really good job. Initially, they started following me in 4 families, very similar situation as Jose. But they figured that if they followed 4 families, they wouldn't really get an intimate look at a migrant family. So they focused on Jose, because they saw a stronger connection between us 2. And it worked out. I think it worked out. So, if you go ahead, I mean, the floor is yours, questions.
Hi, my name is Christine. I just moved here from LA. Thank you. Thank you for your help, for your work. We need more people like you in our midst to do this type of work and to help the children and the families. Recently, I hired a handyman to put in a screen door for me. He's worked for my brother several times. His name is Izzy. And he was telling me he has a 15-year-old daughter who's pretty much deaf since birth. But in the Salinas school district, she's not getting any signing in the classroom, and not even getting signing training herself or for the parents. And I just wondered if you knew, what the regulations are in the district as far as providing for children with handicaps.
Well, I work for the elementary school district. There's 3 elementary school districts in Salinas. There's the Santa Rita School District, the LSL School District, and then there's us, Salinas City Elementary School District. And that obviously there's ed code, and there are things that they need to be doing legally. As far as services, we also have the Monterey County Office of Education that can provide some services. So unless I really knew very specific about that child, I wouldn't be able to answer. But I know in our district, there are services that our students need, aren't necessarily legally, the district's not necessarily legally required to provide some of those services. But I'm also the the union president for our district. And that is one of the things we are dealing with right now with the special education program. So many needs, so many teachers left, have been leaving the special education field, we need more. And they feel because there's a lack of services being provided, not just for the students, but for the teachers themselves. They ask for help, more training, more aids, everything, you name it. And the districts have been slow to respond. So that's our biggest push right now, is to increase those services for the students. We just, we were fighting with our SPED director because we felt she wasn't right for our district. So she at the end of the school year, she resigned, and we're in the process of hiring someone who has a vision, you know, a dual vision, and who is, has a plan on how to roll out these new services. Unfortunately, the previous one didn't have that, so we're hoping that soon we'll be able to answer those questions without any doubt.
I assume that things have gotten worse because of the politics, and therefore you might, I guess you're seeing more disruption in families and more turnover in the classroom, even though the kids, as far as I know, are quite motivated to learn.
There is fear. There has been fear the moment they announced that President Donald Trump, well, that he won the election. We had parents come into our classroom saying, hey, you know what? My child didn't want to come to school today. I mean, she literally was crying all night because she's terrified now. A lot of the kids, they're not really terrified for themselves. They're terrified for their parents that they're going to be deported. A lot of them were born here, and so they worry more about their parents. And the news sometimes says, I'm going to be more careful. The Spanish news, our parents watch the Spanish news. They don't watch NBC, CBS, CNN. And the Spanish news, I sometimes get upset because it's horrible, but they make it seem so much worse. And stories like, for example, we heard on the news that we can't go to Walmart because that's where ICE is waiting for us. So they sensationalize a lot. The news, it just creates this bigger fear, more than I mean, they already have so much fear. And then we tell them, you need to stop watching the news and talk to us, find someone who knows, and get the facts. But yes, but you know what? There is fear, but because of that fear, what have we seen throughout the country? People are coming together. There's rallies with thousands and hundreds of thousands of people coming together saying, this isn't right, and we need to fix this. So I don't like what's happening, but at least we have so many people coming out saying, this isn't right. We need to fix this. We need to get together and let them know how we feel. But until, I don't know when, until hopefully November sometime, things will begin to change.
Let's vote. I have so many questions. One being, does your district have like a sanctuary statement? We're from the Central Valley, and so a lot of the school districts there do actually have some, they don't like to call it that because then that gets targeted. So that's one of my questions.
Well, my good buddy Wes over there will attest to this. We were very upset with our city council because they were afraid to declare Salinas a sanctuary city. They were saying, hello, do you know who you're representing? Almost your entire workforce needs to hear that you're behind them, and they did. Eventually, they ended up calling it something different. I don't remember what it was. Something that didn't include the word sanctuary.
But the county has called itself a sanctuary county.
Yes. So, but at our district, we did. I worked with the school board. They passed a resolution declaring our district a sanctuary district. We also did another resolution. We worked with the board to pass a different resolution regarding pesticides. And And so right now we have a board that's very receptive to they know who they're representing. They're representing the students. The great majority of our students are Hispanic and live across the street, but go to school across the street from one of the ag fields. So we're very fortunate to have a school board that's on our side.
Another quick question is, hopefully it's quick. So you said that there was a process for you, but there isn't one for Jose. So can you explain that further? Because it wasn't clear.
Well, yeah. Well, back when I was growing up, I did the government. It was believe it or not, it was President Reagan and his administration who recognized, like, yeah, we need people. We need to give them an opportunity. We need to give them, have them a way to get residency, permanent residency, and eventually U.S. citizenship. And that's how it worked out for me. Now for Jose right now, we've gone to forums where they have attorneys, and we've asked that question, like Jose, it has his siblings are U.S. citizens. Is there a way, that he can become a citizen through his siblings? And he said, well, there's good news and bad news. The answer is yes, but the bad news is doing it that way takes about 30 years. And I told that to my mom, and I said, yeah, I could have answered that, because she did that for one of her brothers way back in the day, and it took almost 30 years. And by that time, her brother, my uncle, said, yeah, well, I don't want to go anymore. So right now, right now it's not looking good, and we were feeling very strongly about the possibility of him being safe under DACA.
Yeah.
But now that's being under attack, and we don't know where that's going to go. And again, it's a waiting game right now. We have to wait to see what happens.
I expect Trump to be gone in a few years, and I keep thinking about this. About 25 years ago, or a little more, in '86 and '87, there was an immigration law. There was an office in Salinas, and I remember it very well because my comadre and my ahijada both were legalized during that. Anyone who had been in the country for 5 years or had worked in the fields for 90 days for a certain year would get a red card, then in 6 months they would get a green card. And that was done, I guess, because they needed people to work in the fields. There weren't enough people. Many more people did that than did the 5-year thing. And I don't know who the president was then, in '86 and '87. It was very, but things were very different then, and there could be a law like that again.
That's
Those people now have green cards.
well. I'll give Reagan this. He was a bit smarter, because he realized we need guest workers. We need to help them here. Right now, this is things are happening that I've never seen in my entire life. You drive through Salinas, through the out in the country roads or anywhere, and you'll see signs out posted on the side of the freeway that says that they're looking for field workers. They're looking for people. Whereas before, you didn't see any of that because people weren't leaving, people weren't being deported, they weren't in mass. I mean, there was a relationship, I guess, between the farmers and the government, saying, like, yeah, we do need these people. We need their help, and not just in agriculture. When we're talking, you name it. You go to a Chinese restaurant, go behind people cooking back there. They're Mexican. Go to there was this, I don't remember who it was. I believe it was Anthony Bourdain who spoke. He said, like, you know what? You go to these fancy French restaurants and the owners are getting all these awards for their food, but go in the kitchen, see who's cooking.
But that's only the last 25 years also.
So yeah, right now there's really nothing. The this administration is not friendly at all, and passing any sort of immigration, and, I mean, I don't see them coming together to work something out. So that's why I'm like this every night, waiting for November and saying, come on, people wake up.
Thank you again for your work. I'm new to California. I've only been here for about 5 years from the East Coast, Florida. So I'm still on a huge learning curve. What appears to me to be one of the saddest situations that I'm observing, and maybe you can clarify, it seems like we have a very large population, not of migrant workers, but of undocumented, as you just explained, hospitality workers, people that are the mules, the foundation for all these businesses. And their children are here, they were born here. And now you've got this scenario where this is a whole underground economy. I don't know all the ins and outs on how they're getting paid and all this stuff, but it's here. I'm saying there's a whole underground market, a whole underground culture. And we've got people that are very law-abiding, contributing to our community, and all we ever hear about are the ones that are the gangsters, And so I don't want to help the gangsters. I'd be careless. Maybe that's me, but I want to help the people that have been here for 20, 30 years, that don't have a path. It's obviously affecting their children, especially when you try to reach out and see that the parents really have limited resources to get out there to help their children through the education system. And they're always worried about exposure. I'm seeing your film and saying, oh my God, if ICE sees these apartment complexes are going to raid them. I work on the east side. Okay, so if you can comment on strategies on how you guys dealing with this stuff.
That's why I'm a teacher and not a politician, because it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy solution. It's very complicated. Now, as far as when they approached me to do the film, I said, okay, I'm going to do it on one condition. You don't focus on the negative. Oh, let's throw in the dropout rate and the crime rate of the Hispanics. Well, my response to that is, well, guess what? That's all you know because that's all you hear in the news. You don't hear about my story. I grew up working in the fields in 7 and went to Berkeley and helping out the community, my friends, doctors, attorneys, every profession. You don't hear their stories. Well, why not? Because the news focuses on that small percentage of people that do bad in a certain corner of the city. But guess what? Every city has a corner like that. And it's not just Hispanics. It's, you name it, they all have it. But they choose to focus on us. And that's my question. Why just us? Why just us? It's every culture, every city, everywhere. And again, it's a small percentage of each culture. It's there. But that's what I mentioned a long time ago. We should go into business, I told them. We should go into business. We should create our own news network where all we're reporting is the good. All the positive that's happening. As you said, we'll go broke right away. No one's going to want to watch that. They want to hear the bad.
I would watch it.
So,
I think everybody would.
So it's not just a Hispanic problem. It's a everybody problem. And there is no easy solution. There is, I don't know. I don't claim to have the answers, and that's why, like I said, I'd probably be blackballed, if I go into politics right away, because I'm just too honest.
Yeah, right.
I had the honor to be a DACA instructor here in Seaside to students that knew no English, and they put them in classes of 35. And I look back over the years to the success stories that you're going to be telling. And this is a success story, this film. For example, I graduated from Cal in '67, And then I was involved with the Underground Press Syndicate, and we started our own papers. And then almost 50 years ago, I met this teenager that really impressed me. His name was Gary Sota. Have you met him?
I know the name Gary Sota, yes.
Yeah, he went on to become a
He's a great.
professor
Yeah.
at UC Berkeley, and he inspired so many people. And like in '68, a friend wanted me to do a poster, and he said, I can't pay you, but I can give you some free tickets. So he gave me a free ticket. It says $1 on it. And I showed up on Haight Street, and this guy who was a mariachi performer in Tijuana, and then he came up and went to Mission High. He got up on the stage. I was that close to him, and he was Carlos Santana. And there were 23 of us there. And I said, someday I will tell my grandchildren about this. And one of my students, who's now older, we went to the Dollar Tree here, and I was in line, and she said, are you Mr. Thompson? I said, yeah, you remember me? She said, I sure do, from the DACA program. And she talked to me a little bit. I said, whoa, you lost your accent. She hadn't, sounded like she didn't know Spanish. And I could go on and on about more. And it's great that you filmed this, because then someday when those kids get the attention that they deserve, you can play it.
I was going to mention one more thing. Where a lot of, we were talking about field workers and hospitality and restaurants and just everywhere, a lot of them were Hispanics. And, well, the thing is, a lot of people who claim they're taking our jobs won't do those jobs. They're gonna, I mean, I'll give you an example. The UFW, United Farm Workers, one time said, you know what, we're tired of people saying they're taking our jobs. On their website, they said, you want a job? You got it. Sign up right here, we'll get you a job. Where do you want to work? Onions, garlics, we'll get you a job. You can take someone else's job. They posted that nationwide. I got one guy who signed up. One guy who wasn't
I did. I worked in the lettuce.
I think it was about 4, and one of them was Stephen Colbert.
Okay, so you get there. Okay, so you get, and the whole country, there you go. 4 from 1, we'll go from 1 to 4. Even if it's not working out in the ag field, they don't want to, a lot of them won't want to work that long hours and in the restaurant behind the back where it's hot. Some of them just don't. They're looking, I don't know what they're looking for. They're looking for that $25 an hour job with health benefits, and some of those, they're just, they're not going to find it, So, and she also had a question in the presentation.
We'll give it to her.
Oscar, I'm wondering if the PTAs at the schools or the community has a plan for the children who are documented to be taken care of if their parents are deported.
Yes, we do. I met a young lady who came to me and said, listen, I don't know if your district is already doing this, but this is what we would, if you don't, this is what we would like to bring to your district. And it's sort of like a rapid response team where they come in and they're going to educate the teachers on what to do exactly if, all of a sudden the child says, they took my parents. And so the first thing is to get all the information, get all the facts, what teachers can do, get them numbers, get them contacts, and the same thing with parents is we're going to have workshops for parents to come in and learn about what they should be doing just in case. So we are, I know her name is Janet Solis. I don't remember the organization she works for, but I introduced her to our superintendent. We talked, and the superintendent, like I said, was on board, said, absolutely, we need to do this. So that we're hoping to start as soon as we get back in August.
Good.
So I was wondering if, why immigrants end up in places like work fields. How does that happen? Why?
Because they won't, well, when you say immigrants, some of them, not all of them, a lot of them are not here legally, so they can't go to a place like Walmart, not Walmart, Target, and say, I would like to turn in an application and get a job here. They do reference check, they check to see that you can legally do it here. So that if they find out that you are not here legally, they're not going to give you a job and say, yeah, we can't do it. So a lot of businesses do the same thing. They do a background check, and the only jobs that they can find or that their companies will give them is probably in the agriculture field. You're welcome.
There was an article in the Herald, I think it was yesterday, the day before, about bad jobs. And it was talking about the fact that bad jobs are the low-paying jobs and they don't have the benefits and this and that. And I think one of the things this film really shows is that, a lot of the people who work in the fields, I know I did it 2 days for a seed company in Salinas. I didn't even go in on my break, it was so hard. I just sat in the trenches. It is so difficult work and they're not getting paid what they should. And that is one thing that you realize that, that if these people really were appreciated as they should be, everybody who, like his parents who work in the fields, they should be making a living wage and able to move to a really decent place. I have a question, but I first want to say that we collected, out of the generosity of everybody who was here, we collected $143 to go to Jose and his brother and sister for school supplies. And so my question is, I know it said in the movie that his mother and Jose, at the time the film was made, they could not qualify for, say, Medicaid in California. Has that changed? Are they able to qualify for any health care?
No. And that's one of the big misconceptions out there is that uneducated people figure that they're all takers. All they do is take, and they don't realize that they can't take unless they're residents or citizens. And so that's a big, they can't, but they continue to say, all they do is take, and they clog up or this, and they take all this. No, they can't. That's why Mari, the mom, said she goes to churches to get rice and beans because there's no other services that she can get. There's organizations that help, but no Medicaid. And let me add, she also mentioned wages. So for years, forever, farm workers have been, UFO has been fighting to get the ag companies to pay overtime to the workers because during the peak season, they'll work 10, 12 hours a day, 7 hours a week, and the farm companies keep saying, no, absolutely not. We'll go bankrupt or whatever excuse they want to get. They just continue to fight overtime pay. And one of the reasons they're like, well, we can't because it's only seasonal work, so we don't want to pay. It's not considered full time or whatever. So they continue to fight. But I don't know the specifics, but I believe California finally said like, yeah, we're going to start paying overtime. But don't quote me on that. But the last time I read something about overtime for farm workers, I believe we're in a good place to move forward.
I think it's really important for us to see this as one issue out of a multiple issues of oppression that exist in this country. The working class is being attacked by the ruling class, and they always want more and more profit. And they also are promoting war all over the world, throughout Mexico and Central America, South America, Africa, the Middle East. they want to spend their money because they make money from their wars. And I think the immigrant issue is a scapegoat, which is the Jews were in Germany, to blame them for the illness in this country. And we need to recognize the commonality of the various oppression, race oppression, women's rights, LGBTQ. It's all seen as very separate, but in reality, it's all in one package. And unless we work together, hand in hand, from one issue to another, we won't be able to change the system that's at the bottom of this oppression and ill treatment of human beings.
Well, throughout history, I'm a U.S. history major, throughout history, there's always a scapegoat. They always look for someone like the Irish, the Chinese, you know, the Jews, the Japanese, and then I guess it's our turn, the Spanish. And then you're right, I mean, it's a distraction, you know. It just happens. It always has.
Besides voting, what do you want from us? I mean, really, what do you want us to do?
That, no one's ever asked me that before. Well, I want you to see, all I wanted you guys to get from this film is, my wife had no idea about migrant families and how they lived and how I grew up. Jackie and Laura flew for Boston. The reason why I turned from a 30-minute interview to a 3-hour interview is because they were shocked at the answers. What do you mean? So it's, what is it that you mentioned yourself? What we hear is crime. So I want you to go out there and just say, that's not who they are. It's a small percentage of people who mess up for everyone else. I understand that, but the positive story. I want positive stories out in the news. I want positive stories between us and sharing that and educating people as to that they don't really come here to commit crimes. At least not 95% of them, 98%. You know, it's just a very small percentage. They come here because they want to work and they want to better themselves. They want to better their families, and they want to contribute just like me. They don't just want to come and work. They want to educate. They want to go to college. They want to help make this country a better country by being whatever it is that they want. Register all your family members. I have family members that I know don't vote. And I think this is going to be maybe the 3rd or 4th family reunion, Ramos family. I haven't attended any of them. But this year I said, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to take a stack of voter registration. And I'm going to say, my thing, when they go up there and they start talking about how they're doing and what's new in their life, I say, me, I'm here to register, you are not registered to vote and you're going to vote. And I have family in Bakersfield and some of those, you know, Republican small pockets. And no. And then I'm going to give them a stack and say, you go and you register others to vote too. And, you know, because you guys know all the statistics of how many people are registered Republican, how many are registered Democrat, how many people voted here, how many people didn't. But the most shocking part is how many people actually didn't vote. And that is appalling. Are you serious? People die in other countries to vote. And all you have to do is drive here and put the ballot or mail it. And you won't even do that? So get people to vote.
I want to make some comment in that it is true that if we pass positive stories out, we may help bring people to see the light. For example, one time I heard from the people that work in the field telling me that back in the 1930s and 40s when people are working in the field, if you translate their hourly pay and bring the money forward, actually it's $53 an hour. I was shocked to hear that because farm labor is considered skilled because you couldn't pick, for instance, the asparagus properly in a nice speed because you have to cut it so that it has some roots left and the tender part gets out and you go down the road very fast. So yes, we need to pay the farm workers good money, and it has been done before.
Yeah. You know, when you go to a store, well, chain store, go to Safeway or Albertsons, whatever, all you see is perfect fruit. And I've seen reports, I've read reports where in other countries, you know, you see their fruit, and it's not perfect, you know, and there'll be one or two pieces of fruit left, and they're not perfect, but there's only one or two left. That's a shocking part. When have you ever seen one or two pieces of fruit left at a Safeway? No, because you know why? As soon as it starts going just a little bit back, they throw it away. Because people become spoiled. We want everything to be perfect. And that's where labor comes in. It is a skill because you can't sell your product if it's not perfect the way the customers want it. So can you imagine, like when Mari was chopping lettuce, if she just slices a quarter of that thing and like, oh, it doesn't matter, here we go. No one's gonna buy that. It's the same thing for every vegetable, every fruit. It has to be done very precisely, or the farm, you'll get fired. I got fired one time.
I wanted to say that it's very difficult to get my neighbors to believe the good things. One neighbor across the street who I've stopped talking to, because I can't stand it anymore, he always says, well, the apartments, they're 1 and 2 bedroom apartments on Moorland is where most of the police calls, there are a lot of Hispanic families there, a lot of police calls there. But I asked the policeman and he said, no, that's not true. But my neighbor across the street doesn't believe that.
Well, what is the strategy our current administration is keep lying. They keep lying until they believe the lies. Well, we keep telling positive stories until people say like, oh, well, I guess it must be true. But it will be true. It won't be a lie.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramos, for this film. It was beautiful. And I love it because it brought memories back when I taught at a school that was 90% Spanish-speaking students up in the hills in Seaside. And the families are so warm and dear, and the students tried so hard. It reminded me of that, and this was over 10 years ago. Thank you so much. We need these stories out there to show the humanity and the sweetness and the hard work that the children and the families put forth. Thank you.
One of the things our pastor has told us to do is, you know, you feel comfortable when you talk to your own people. Get uncomfortable. Find someone from a different race, from a different religion, from a different gender, from whatever it is, and go talk to them. Feel a little comfortable for a while, and you'll see that you have so many things in common. And I think that's what's happening now. Is people aren't really, well, one side more than the other. They're not looking to go meet and talk to someone who looks different or believes different than they do. But we have to do that. Otherwise, we're going to start separating ourselves into little pockets, and doesn't get us anywhere. So do that. I got to do that more as well. But that's something good to do, right?
Yes, I think that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you.